Hi, my name is Joseph Uduehi from the University of Southern Indiana, and I'm going to make a presentation, but I would also like to share the screen. So let me go straight to the sharing of the screen. Here I go. Okay, you can see my screen and you can also see my face now, I hope. My presentation is on cell phone and drawing. And I'll be making this presentation based on my experience. And it will center on distant learning, which is rising, especially with the constraints that COVID-19 has imposed on all of us. And I'm sure you are also experiencing it. And how we can use cell phone as a vital part of the P12 learning environment. So I'm just going to share a very brief innovative use of cell phone in art education, specifically in drawing lessons. So my next slide will just be sharing of what I will be doing in brief. Now, it will be in two parts. The first part will be the lesson by the teacher, which is me. And the second part, which will be very brief, will be the assignment. So please, let's just quickly listen to it. This is just an introduction, which is me saying how I develop the lesson plan. To the next slide. This will give you a summary of how I expect students to use the ideas I have in choosing their own choice of objects. I expect them to use basic shapes. I expect them to use objects in their homes. Specifically, I wouldn't want them to go out because of the distant learning. Then I will also show them how to arrange a composition for any project or for the assignment. Now, this is my own example. They could use any objects. This is a harvest from my wife's garden. So this is just a sample using objects from my home. Then this slide is to show the students or the kids in P through 12 how they could arrange their objects based on these simple design shapes. This will be another way they could also arrange it. Very simple composition. Then they could also arrange it using 4 objects, which this I say is more interesting. Haven't done that, let's be very specific on what I expect them to do. Now, after they've taken a photograph and they have the items they need, I expect them to use Microsoft Digital to create the shapes, or in a sense, I will create the shape for them or the teacher, and expect the students to use it in fitting in their choice of objects. Again, this object should come from their home, so they can arrange a composition for the assignment. This is how I started my using basic shapes from Microsoft ready-made shape. You see how this looks like it's all blue. Then I show them also how they could have basic outlines. So they have basic shapes they could fit their objects in. Then that basic shape is simplified to very thin line. But I didn't like the thin line, so I make it thicker, starting with the first, the second, and all of them. Then I could also add colors to them so I know which is in front and which is the one behind. The student can also do it, but for the sake of an example, I decided to do it this way. So you can see the red, how they fit into the composition. Then I decided to, so I could just go ahead and use colors to show that the red is in front, the white by the side, and the yellow right behind. Then I could just give the whole thing a gray color, just to play around with colors, especially when I'm working with the older kids or the younger kids. Now, this is a sample of a project which is on value, which I decided to create. I wanted to make a composition or to make a composition using at least 5 still objects, like a box of cereal, which we all have at home, a bowl, cup, spoon, and a gallon of milk. This is just a breakfast items, which I'm sure most kids would use at home. Then the project will be on how to draw in dry media a basic composition of still objects using at least 2. You could say 3, but in this case, I'm going to be using 2 of the following: hatching, cross-hatching, pointillism, blending, shading methods to complete the artwork. Then I give them specifications on how the assignment should be carried out. In this case, this is my own specification to carry out this assignment. So this is my project, which I did at home as a sample. I brought out my items, my objects. Then I used the basics design composition, which I talked about earlier on, to design the composition at home. I put a white sheet of paper behind, and I took the photograph. Now, we should be rest assured that that photograph should also be sent alongside the final project, which I will be talking about. Again, this is the lesson by the teacher. So this is a lesson I did myself. The image to the left is the rough, and the image to the right is the editor one. How do you edit? This right one is what I'm going to show. This is what I did with the Microsoft editing tool, which is very good. I would highly recommend that. You can have number 1, which is the original image. Number 2 is not as good because it's too a little bit light. Number 3 is all black and white. Number 4, I prefer that because it gives the actual colors of the images. Number 5 is kind of too light, and number 6 is too extreme to the left and to the dark and light colors. In this case, just black and white. So this is an example. So I will go for number 4 as the image the kids or the students should submit for the assignment. So let's go straight to what I expect them to do. Now, this is how I expect them to submit the assignment on Blackboard. In our institution, we use the Blackboards. In some institutions, they use the Canvas. So in our case, this is how I expect them to submit for grading. There are 5 stages of photograph I expect them to take. Each photograph should capture the draft stage, focusing stage, start of completion stage, near completion stage, completion stage. Again, at this point, they will be using their cell phones to take the pictures on these various stages that I expect them to submit for grading. Now, this is just a picture of how I want it done, just to show the kids how it can be taken. They can use the regular lighting in the room, make sure it's vertical, and they have the cell phone to use, which, by the way, they are very good. Most cell phones can give you a good photograph. So for each stage, this is about the 5th stage, they take a picture. And this is how they can load them to their computer or their PowerPoint. And the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th should be well documented like this. So this will be the final project or the final outcome or the outcome of their project, which they will submit for grading, titled The 5 Stages of Documentation of Drawings Using Cell Phone. Again, this is the picture. at least to let me know that they did the work by themselves. This will be the draft stage, which is very light. Second, the focusing, and to the completion stage. So that is what I expect by the end of the day, by the end of the assignment, for them to submit. Now, this is the part B of the assignment, just an example which you could modify to give to the students. Again, I'm focusing on 5 still life objects. At this time, I expect them to choose their own objects, not based on what I choose. It could be anything else, but at least it is 5. And I would expect them, the assignment should be draw in dry media a basic composition of still objects. In this case, again, use 2 of the following: hatching, cross-hatching, pointillism, blending, shading methods to complete the artwork. So if you read through this, these are the specifics which I expect them to capture or to do, and how to submit it to Blackboard by the end of the day. I have found this project, this way of teaching distant learning drawing, as very helpful, because since you are not there in person, this project is able to help them do the composition, draw it, document it, and submit it for grading. There may be other areas that I need to work on, but this has really helped. And I would expect you to try it on your own. If you find it interesting, or you see some wrong side of it, or you see areas you think I should improve on, please don't hesitate to send me your ideas to this email number. So I hope you really enjoy this very brief introduction of how to use cell phone and drawing, and I hope you try it. Good luck. Bye.